Yo, what's up, guys? It's KB. Thanks for tuning in to another video here on the Outside the Box Podcast YouTube channel. If you like the content you're seeing from us here, be sure to smash that like button, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any future videos, leave a comment down below, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And now let's get into another original video here on the Outside the Box Podcast YouTube channel.
Welcome into episode 15 of the Outside the Box College Show. I'm your host, Uncle Deej. Sitting across from me is nephew Hoots. Before we get into everything that's popping last week and coming up this week with college lacrosse, going to tell you, please subscribe to the pod, youtube.com/OTB LaxPod. Also follow the pod on all socials under the same moniker, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, etc. That's where you get full video episodes of this pod. That's also where you get exclusive interviews, Wordle, and other lacrosse content. Don't forget to follow the main pod, Underground, youtube.com/Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you get full video podcast with KB, covering all things Philadelphia. And also, new segment moving forward, going to be Water Dogs Weekly, coming out on every Thursday episode of Underground. Michael Sowers will be kicking off Water Dog Weekly with our very own KB this upcoming week. And then moving forward, it will be weekly interviews with different members of the Philadelphia Water Dogs throughout the season, coming out on that Thursday episode of Underground. Don't forget to follow Underground Industries as a whole, youtube.com/Underground Industries. Also can find them Facebook, Threads, Instagram, the same moniker. I think TikTok as well. And then you can find Underground Industries on TikTok at the U Industries. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Uncle Deej12. Follow me on Twitter, SCS_NextGreat. Follow nephew across from me, Hoot Sport Media, on all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and everywhere else. He's got amazing selects from all the great work that he does with the camera. Go and show him some love for that. And with that being said, this episode of Outside the Box College Podcast is powered by our friends at 47, truly the best headwear and apparel in the game. With their vast collection of collegiate gear, they'll make sure you're repping your favorite college lacrosse team all season long. So use our link in the description to shop with 47 and get free shipping on all orders when you join the 47 family. Just make an account, as it's free, and start earning points on every purchase and you make, and turn those points into free gear. Again, use our link in the description to shop with 47 and get free shipping on all orders when you join the 47 family. Shout out to 47 for being a proud partner of OTB and the official headwear partner of Underground Industries. How you feeling, nephew?
Good. Can't remember what I did this weekend.
I feel that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gearing up for PLL Week 1, so I leave here in a couple days for that, so I'm excited for that. I saw a bunch of people complaining about the NCAA tournament. I did not join the discourse because I'd rather talk about it here and not get mobbed with some radical fans, we'll call them. So that was fun to see, but yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, I spent my weekend outdoors at a lacrosse tournament, and I am feeling the brunt of it now this week. Elementary and middle school tournament, was working a table, so the scoreboard keeping the whole weekend. It was a great time. A lot of good lacrosse that I saw this weekend, so that's never a bad thing. My Pistons won Game 7 over the Magic, so they also took down Cleveland in Game 1 as we record this on Tuesday, so I'm feeling good about my Pistons because, the Pistons won again. You can play the song. Because the Pistons won again. But yeah, so this past weekend was a good one. Got a lot of time just outdoors and sleeping. I didn't really do much else besides that. I did get a chance to peek in on a couple games and got a chance to obviously watch the selection show and see some of the discourse online that I also didn't hop into because I knew we'd be getting into it here on the show. So I'm super pumped about that. Before we get into the bracket and everything, just going to do a quick rundown of what happened this past week. Not really going to dive into it as deep as we normally would, just mainly because it's kind of all irrelevant at this point. Like, once we start talking about the tournament, that's all that's really going to count. So some of these games, especially like the Friday and Saturday games that were just semis, they don't mean as much as they would have in a normal week where that game is setting up for conference tournament seeding and RPI, etc. Um, so looking at the scores from this past weekend, starting with men's D1, on Thursday, John Hopkins took down Michigan in the Big Ten semi 14-12. Georgetown beat Denver 11-8 in the Big East semis. Penn State beat Maryland 8-6. Providence took down Villanova 14-7. And then St. Joseph beat High Point 11-9 in the A10, along with Richmond taking down UMass 11-7 in the A10. The CAA had Townsend and Monmouth, along with Stony Brook and Drexel. Stony Brook took down Drexel 9-7, and then Townsend beat Monmouth 14-7, setting up a matchup between those two in a championship game. Marist and Siena, as Marist took down Sacred Heart, who many thought would win that conference, to set up a matchup amongst each other in the MAC. The NEC was between Long Island, who took down Cleveland State 15-14, and Robert Morris, who took down VMI 12-5. And then the American East was Vermont over Bryant 13-7. And then Albany over UMBC 14-3 to set up those championship games on Saturday. On Friday, in the Ivy League, Cornell beat Harvard 17-8. Army over Lehigh 13-6. And Patriot, Virginia, the only team to beat Notre Dame this season. Notre Dame has two losses, and they're both to Virginia. Virginia topping them 15-10 in the ACC semi. Air Force moves on in the ASUN, taking down Utah 13-12. Princeton over Yale 12-10. North Carolina over Syracuse by the same score. Loyola will meet Army in the Patriot League final 13-8. And Air Force would meet Jacksonville in the ASUN final after they beat Mercer 18-3. On Saturday, looking at these championship games, Penn State took down Hopkins 16-8 to win the Big Ten. Marist took down Siena 12-8 to win the MAC. Albany over Vermont 14-11 to win the American East. Richmond over St. Joe's 8-6 in the A10. Georgetown beats Providence 14-6 to win the Big East. Stony Brook upsets Townsend 13-11 to win the CAA. And Robert Morris outlasts Long Island 8-7 to win the NEC crown. And then on Sunday, Virginia took down North Carolina in dominant fashion 16-6 to win the ACC, cementing them into the tournament, which we're going to get into here in a second. Army beats Loyola 14-7. Jacksonville over Air Force 16-7. And Princeton dominates Cornell 19-9 in the Ivy League championship. Anything like stick out at you right away from some of those semis and championship games that we saw this past weekend?
Virginia would be, I think they're probably the elephant in the room now, going 2-0 on the weekend. Dominantly beating Carolina as well by 10 is I'll give them their flowers. Hands up. I was wrong. That's fine with me. Obviously, Princeton destroying Cornell. I've been saying all year I feel like Cornell is just an iffy team, so it doesn't surprise me necessarily. No, but seeing as how these two teams played a tight game earlier in the year, that was a big one. Air Force beating Utah back-to-back weeks. Obviously, they lost Sunday, but, kind of good end to the season, quote-unquote, if you will. And then Georgetown continues to dominate the Big East. I won't get into the seeding, I guess, for what we're going to talk about next. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of close games that, with the way the season's gone, I can't really say I'm shocked with any of the results, but definitely the margin, I think, of some of these results is a little more surprising than anything.
Yeah, I mean, there were some big wins, and then there were some tight ones too. Like there were clearly some games that you could tell where people were fighting for their season, and that they really cherished winning that conference tournament. They really cherished getting that auto bid and having a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. And then there were some others where you were like, did that team get off the bus?
Yep.
Do they know it's playoff time? Do they know that like teams are winning trophies right now, or are they just still acting like it's the middle of March? Because I just need to know. I'm seeing two different stories here, and some of it isn't adding up. I also think some of the tournaments went chalk, like we expected. You know, looking back at some of the scores, I don't think anyone's surprised Princeton won the Ivy. I think a lot of people were expecting Army to win the Patriot. Looking at, Saturday, Big Ten was up in the air. So, I don't think anyone was surprised at American East winning, or Albany winning the American East, Richmond winning the A10, Georgetown winning Big East. I think Stony Brook over Townsend isn't so far out of the realm. Like, I don't think Townsend felt unbeatable, but I also don't think anybody had Stony Brook or anyone else beating Townsend in the CAA tournament either.
Yeah.
So there were definitely some good games this weekend, and some of those upsets that shot out, and some very lopsided games along with some competitive games. Like it's what you expect from a championship, weekend. When you look back at football conference championships, you look back at basketball conference championships, you have some blowouts. You also have some close games. You have some teams fighting for their season. You have some who are like, look, we're in the tournament regardless of what happens here. So it's tough to rate these games or like look at these games a certain way sometimes. But that's what I like about the smaller conferences. They're all battling.
Yeah.
99.98% of those teams do not get an auto bid on a yearly basis. And they know that they got to win their conference tournament in order to get it. So it doesn't matter how well they played all year. They're going to turn it up another 10 notches when conference tournament comes around. And we got to see some of that this week. I absolutely loved that. I kind of don't see a point in going through some of the other scores we would normally go through, like women's D1. And, actually, we can look at the women's D1 championship games and kind of see what happened there. On Saturday in the NEC championship, Stonehill over Lemoyne. Jacksonville beats Delaware 16-11 in the A-Sun. Massachusetts beats Akron 15-3 in the MAC. Stony Brook over Townsend 18-7, so they go double up in the CAA over the same team. James Madison beats South Florida in the American tournament. Colorado over Florida, handing Florida their first Big 12 tournament loss, being the first team other than Florida to win the Big 12 since Florida has been a part of the Big 12, and I believe in the Big 12's existence of women's lacrosse. So Colorado picks up a huge upset there. Denver taking down Georgetown 12-4. Navy over Army in the Patriot League Championship 17-11. On Sunday, Fairfield 14-3 over Siena. Princeton 12-8 over Yale. Albany beats Vermont 13-11, so they double up over the same team as well. Mercer over High Point 14-11 in the Big South. Davidson beats VCU 10-5 in the A10. And do we have some championship games earlier than Sunday? Great podcasting. Like, I'm bugging right now. But I don't
think it was all Sunday.
I don't see the Big Ten championship game. I don't see any of the Big Ten games on here. They had theirs the week before. They did. Never mind. We talked about it. Northwestern beat Maryland in overtime.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and North Carolina beat Stanford 12-8 in the ACC championship game. Ignore me. I'm like, hold on. Like, I can't be, like, losing all of it, right? I got to know what's happening. All right, so anything else you want to add to that week before we dive into the biggest elephant in the room?
No. I think the only thing I would add is what we're about to talk about.
So the men's bracket is out for every division, along with the women's bracket as well. Our 2 play-in games for the men's bracket will be today, as you're listening to this, on Wednesday, 7 p.m., Marist and Stony Brook. And then also at 7 p.m., Robert Morris and Jacksonville. And then we get started with regular tournament play on the 9th. Things will kick off Saturday with North Carolina hosting Albany at noon. And then Penn State will host Army West Point at 2:30. Cornell will host Hopkins at 5. And Richmond will host Duke at 7:30. Then on Sunday, Notre Dame will host the winner of Jacksonville and Robert Morris at noon. Princeton will host the winner of Marist and Stony Brook at 2:30. Syracuse will host Yale at 5. And Virginia will host Georgetown at 7:30. Your first initial thoughts on the ranked teams, the host, and the bracket overall. Did anybody get snubbed? Is there anybody who got in that shouldn't have gotten in, etc.?
I mean, like always, I feel like on paper it looks like a cakewalk for a couple of these teams that are favorites. Doesn't mean they will walk all the way to the championship, but that's definitely how it feels. I will say, I know our boy Brian's been high on Georgetown recently. They're coming up against a very hot Virginia team. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that's a fun battle just to watch. I know quite a few people were upset with Duke making it over some other teams. This is what I've been talking about, where this is the problem when there's not a set-in-stone way of getting teams into postseason play. If you want it to be, better selected, I guess, there needs to be a better way of scheduling teams in the regular season throughout, or maybe you switch to a standing situation where it's like the top X amount of teams make it. You still would have to address the scheduling problem at that point, but this is what happens. As far as some of the teams, I think the one fan base I saw very passionately, obviously, was Maryland. I get it. You played good teams. You were 7-6. If you can, I'm all aboard the train of Duke should have played better competition, but Duke won when it mattered. They still won. What was it, 9 games, something like that? So, win more, I guess. You were the consensus number 1 team preseason. Like that's just what it is. So, again, it sucks, but unless we're going to change up the entire selection process and scheduling process, there's no way to avoid this, or just expand the tournament and then this doesn't happen anyway.
On the Maryland point, one, reschedule that game with Richmond. I think it helps you a lot, win or lose. We know that RPI is the number 1 thing they look at. Why wouldn't you play a team that lived in the top 10 the entire season?
Yep.
You didn't help yourself there at all.
Especially when they played Notre Dame and that first quarter was horrendous. Why would you not then immediately be like, oh, we probably should play them?
Yep. But no, you didn't want to play a midweek game. Richmond did everything they could outside of moving the game to Maryland. And for people who want to shame them for that, you can go to hell, in my opinion. Excuse my French, but I'm not giving away a home game because my weather's bad, especially if I have options to reschedule. No, I'm not coming there to play you. You can come here and play me like we originally asked. And if you don't like the dates we come up with, then I guess we just won't play. I don't think Richmond's wrong for wanting to play the home game that they had planned to play. Can you say that that factored into them not playing Maryland at all? Sure. But I don't think they're wrong for that at all. And I will never place blame on them for wanting to play a home game against a very good team. And then the other point on Maryland is, like you said, be better than just one game over 500, and maybe this isn't an issue.
Yep.
Be better in conference play, and maybe this isn't an issue. Win your conference tournament, and this isn't an issue. Especially because your conference tournament is an auto bid tournament.
Yep.
So
That's the point that gets me the most is like, so I hear people all the time say, don't leave it in the ref's hands. And it's like, this is the same thing. Don't leave it in the voters' hands. Like, what are we doing here?
Don't leave it in the committee's hands. Go out and solidify your spot. And the best way to do that is to win your conference tournament, especially if you are in a auto bid conference. Like, Maryland had more than enough ways to save themselves from the scenario that they are in. So that's why I don't like anyone, including myself or us or anyone out there kind of trying to blame the committee for them not getting in. Does the committee have some fault in here? Sure, because they still, at the end of the day, select who's in, where they're seated, etc. So yeah, the committee probably could have stricter criteria and could look at it a little bit different and maybe make a change here or there. But then it goes back to that point we just made. Don't leave it in the committee's hands, and you don't have this issue. But then you brought up another really solid point with Virginia. Georgetown, Richmond, Duke, Syracuse, Cornell, Princeton. Listen, it don't matter who you is. The last team I would want to play right now is the Virginia Cavaliers. Them boys ain't even just hot. Them boys is scorching right now.
Yep.
Scorching. And it doesn't look like there's an end in sight. They're on fire on the offensive end, having fun again, moving the ball around like crazy, celebrating like crazy. That's the formula right there. Defense has turned it up a notch. And honestly, as a defender myself, it's so much easier to turn it up an extra notch when your offense is flowing. Yep. Because you know if you get them the ball back, the lead just stretches more. Or even in a tight game, you know that if you make one stop, they're going to go down and score and the game's back in your favor. Like, it's so much, like, you play so much looser when your offense has it going that day. And for Virginia, it ain't even just that day right now. It's every day. That defense barely has to get off the bus right now. They just got to get out there, walk around, and throw up a couple sticks, and, hey, the game is theirs. That's
a wild turn of events after the way their season started.
Because their offense was so bad. Their defense was playing really well, holding them and keeping them in games, and their offense couldn't score, leaving their defense out to dry. And we told people earlier that if their offense figures it out, Virginia is going to be a problem. And here we are in May, getting ready for the conference tournament, and guess who's a problem? Virginia, because that offense woke up. And I mean, it was only a matter of time. You can't have guys like Roy Colsey, Truett Sunderland. What's the other one I'm thinking of? What's his name?
I feel like we're forgetting a pretty big one here.
Well, no, I wasn't talking about the Millen brothers.
All right.
Obviously them. There's another one. Oh, I can't remember his name right now, and I'm not going to go look. But like their offense is star-studded, and it's there, and there's talent, and we see it all over the place. It was only a matter of time before they kicked it to the next notch. Here they are, and they're honestly the one team that if I'm anybody in the tournament, I'm hoping someone else knocks them out, and I'm trying to stay away from them.
Yep.
Outside of that Virginia-Georgetown game, I'm really appealed by the Hopkins-Cornell game. I think Hopkins has been very up and down this year. I feel like they have very high highs, but very low lows. So when they're low. And like, it's almost like is this team ever going to crawl out of this hole? But then when they're high, it's like, is this team ever going to come down? Can anybody beat this team? Like, how is this team this good? That concerns me going into the playoff. Because in the playoff, it's truly one game. You got to show up for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you got to turn around a week later and show up for 60 minutes. Then you got to do it again a week later, but twice in the same weekend for 60 minutes. I don't know that Hopkins is a team that can come out for 4 straight games and give us a full 60 minutes. But that doesn't mean it can't happen in game 1. And we've also seen Cornell be a team where I won't say they have like high highs and low lows like Hopkins does, but they're very similar in the term of you don't know what Cornell team you're going to get.
Yeah.
I
think Hopkins has mountains and valleys where Cornell is just like sort of some hills where like they're not going way up here, but they're not dropping way below sea level or anything. It's just right here.
I'm pulling up their schedule here because I want to make sure I have the game that I'm thinking of to reference correct. I don't want to use the wrong name when I reference this. So, like, obviously the Cornell that shows up against Richmond and loses 8-7. That's a Cornell team that can beat arguably anybody in the country. But the very next week, that same Cornell team went and took on Penn State and got mollywopped 19-7.
Yep.
Those are just a week apart. You know what I'm saying? But like going into that Richmond game, they were on a 3-game win streak. Beat Albany 11-10, who's a tournament team. Beat Denver 13-9. And then beat Hobart 19-8. Dominated Hobart. And then they come out of the loss to Penn State. They beat Brown 18-9, beat Princeton 13-11, but then lose to Yale 12-13.
Yeah.
Then 2 weeks
after. It's a tournament team, to be fair, but.
Right. And then 2 weeks after Yale, they go and beat Duke 9-7.
Yeah.
Then they dominate High Point 17-9. Back to back, they beat Harvard. They beat Harvard the last week of the regular season, then turned around and beat them in the the Ivy League tournament as well, before losing to Princeton by 10. What am I supposed to do with that? So is the team going to show up and lose by 10 to Hopkins, or are they going to come out and beat them by 4? I don't know what team is going to show up for 60 minutes. That's what makes this game so intriguing. There's also an element where we get a good 30 minutes from both of these teams and a bad 30 minutes from both of these teams. So this is arguably the most even.
That's probably
game.
More likely, honestly.
Yes, like this is probably the most even game of the first round. And I don't even have a direction on where I would begin to go on how to break it down and say like who has somewhat of an advantage here.
Flip a coin. I mean, either way, they're probably going to play Notre Dame the next round, and that's not a favorable matchup for either of them. I mean, the only other close game I think that we'll have, as far as competition wise, I think would be, dare I say it, Richmond Duke.
I don't want to go there just yet. I wanted to hop into one more before we
That's
touch
fine.
on
That's
that
fine.
because I definitely do want to go there though. What is your opinion on Albany and North Carolina?
I mean, I would kind of like to see an upset after the way Carolina just played. I think Albany would be fun. I think Silas Richmond's a fun player. Um, I know the Dogs want him for PLL, but I mean, I think it'd be fun to see them make a run. Um, on paper, it should be Carolina though. Like that's the way I see it is, especially in this first round of any sport, the better team should always win. Now it doesn't mean upsets can't happen, but Carolina should take care of business. Like forget the tournament, the previous tournament at this point. Um, Especially because I would love to see them play Syracuse in the following round again. You know what I'm saying? So, but I can't say I want that more than I want an upset for Albany. So,
I say this one's very weird for me because coming out of the ACC tournament, North Carolina obviously on the downs, didn't play well in that game that they lost. And now you have to go out and literally play for your season. Your next loss and you're done. It's a lot of pressure for those guys, but some of those guys have been in this position before. They've been dreaming about this since they stepped on campus. The coaching staff has been in those positions before, and when you got guys like Owen Duffy, Brady Wambach, and Dominic Petramala, I mean, you can make a lot of things happen. So I think North Carolina is coming into this with the upper hand. But in that same token, there's something going against them. And that's I don't want to say underdog, but just like Albany isn't Albany that we remember. It isn't, Blaze and the Thompson Bros and Connor Fields, and like they've taken a dip. So now like Albany has to kind of regain that respect, and like people aren't expecting them to win this game. People aren't looking at them as a comparable matchup. People aren't saying, people are looking at it like, oh, this is chalk. Look at the paper. Look at this team versus that team. They're so much better. Like that level of disrespect, that slight level of unintentional disrespect that has existed now is a secret weapon that Albany's, is going to be able to use and turn into motivation and, be like, look, we got 60 minutes to lay it all out here. Worst case scenario, we lose this game, but people look at us and go, hey, those dudes balled. They wanted it. They gave them a run. They just couldn't get it done. Best case scenario, we kick these dudes' ass and we keep dancing. That's going to make this game exciting. Like there aren't many matchups like that in the first round. I think you get a lot of that in college basketball, which I think is what makes March Madness so exciting. This is a little taste of May Madness for us in the terms of it's a team that they remind me a lot of maybe like a St. Mary's in basketball, where like they have this somewhat of a history and people are, like used to them having somewhat of some success and being someone who can make a little bit of a run, but they've died down recently and people don't pick them to win games and don't look at them the same way. Albany's got that fire under them to try and make a run. So they're like my one Cinderella sleeper team right now is them. I think they have a solid shot to kind of make some magic happen when you're comparing them to the other automatic bids that are not big time schools and the other at-large bids that weren't clear conference champions or clear best teams. I think they are very comparable or better than a lot of those teams.
Yeah. I will say, though, since the matchup against Syracuse for UNC on April 4th, they flip-flopped wins and losses. And they're coming off a loss to Virginia, a bad one. So while I do hear you on everything, as far as Cinderella stories go, I would kind of expect Carolina to come out and pick up a big dub because that's what they've shown the last, month and a half at this point. So
So
But
you're
again,
saying
I'm all for a Cinderella story.
it's setting them up for a date with Cuse to lose based off recent trends.
I mean, based off recent trends, and also too, like they beat Cuse twice this year. It's hard to beat a team twice. It's super hard to beat them 3 times.
I say, let alone 3.
And I mean, they just played Cuse, 4 days ago? So at that point, it'll be like 2 weeks, whatever it is. So it's still somewhat fresh on their minds. Again, this is assuming that Syracuse takes the Yale seriously and doesn't, look too far ahead.
Right.
But yes, that is sort of what I'm saying.
Hey, I mean, only time will tell, but I like where your head's going with that one. You touched on it just a little bit. Probably the other most competitive game here in the first round, Richmond and Duke. I'm going to let you talk first. You hear a lot more about Duke than I do. So you may have some knowledge I don't have.
I mean, I don't think so.
Well, first,
do
you think they should be in? What is your opinion on the Duke being in, and if they snub somebody else that should have been in that spot, etc.?
I mean, before who do we feel was actually snubbed?
I don't personally. I don't think anybody was snubbed.
Because again, the only people I saw on my timeline were Maryland fans. So unless there's some other team out there that we're saying was snubbed, sounds like it's just them. We're agreeing with that for this conversation?
Some people are saying Ohio State, but I don't think their season was anywhere near good enough to, throw that out there.
To me, it's they're the same team. And this isn't like hating. I don't look at one and think, wow, they're very much better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There are other teams that you can definitely say, no, that team's just better. They deserve to be in. But we already talked about Maryland, so no. Ohio State, even if you want to argue that, I don't mind them picking Duke. I feel like Duke, they still played some decent teams. Not the entire season, I get that. But, there's bound to be teams like this selected anyway. So for me, I don't really care. I know it was a passionate discussion, but whatever. For me, it's more so just about how does Richmond come into tournament play against, the true big dogs, assuming they even make it out of this first round. Because obviously we've been high on Richmond all year, but there has been the discussion of have they played enough good competition. We saw them play against Notre Dame, and while the last 3 quarters of that game were fine for them, that first quarter was deathly. And that, to me, is what makes this game so entertaining, at least on paper, is does Duke just kind of control the pace of play the entire time? I mean, several of their wins were 1 or 2 goal wins that were low scoring because that's how they played. So as much as I want to continue to be on the Richmond train, because they are an exciting team, they deserve to be a top 5 team, like we've been saying all year, it is in the back of my mind, could Duke come out and upset them? And would that even really be an upset? Because I know some people are ranking Duke higher in their minds than they actually are on paper.
I think that shit would be an upset. I think there's been some times where Duke hasn't looked even half the team Richmond has been this year.
Yeah.
I think my big thing about Richmond is they have dominated most of the A10.
Yep.
They weren't just beating those teams. They were dominating those teams. There were a few who were able to give them a couple close games. None of them came close to beating them. None of them were able to beat them. And in their one loss to Notre Dame, they started really slow in a new environment, completely neutral site that was cold as hell. As somebody who was there in person, it was freezing. All of that plays a factor. Not taking anything away from Notre Dame, not dismissing the fact that they lost or anything, but if that game is played at our Lotta Stadium, not even all the way down in Richmond, just in South Bend, where it was probably about 15 degrees, 20 degrees warmer, Richmond might win. That game might not start, as bad as it did for Richmond.
Yep.
And then the rest of that game was 9-9. Richmond was extremely even with the number 1 team in the country to this day. So I'm going to say Richmond's better than Duke. I'm going to say I think Richmond should win this game. But I also am going to say I would not be in the least bit surprised if Duke were to upset them. Because Duke did play in the ACC. And if we want to look back at the ACC, newsflash, y'all. All 5 teams got in. The whole conference.
Yep.
So even if you beat 2 out of the 4 teams you got to play, you did pretty good. And that's going to help your RPI a lot. And even if you lose to all those teams, you're still playing against the top tier talent in the country, which is going to make you stand out against teams that are not playing that level of talent on a regular. That's where Richmond could be in some trouble here. But at the same time, I do think this Richmond team is battle tested. I think they're veteran led. I think they're skillful. I think they have a lot of lacrosse IQ. And then there's a lot of heart and grit. They're doing things that have never been done at Richmond, and they want to continue to do things that have never been done at Richmond. They want to continue to cement themselves in not only the Richmond history books, but just NCAA lore. People want, they want them to look back at the 2026 lacrosse season and go, damn, the Richmond Spiders were a top 2 team not to.
Yep.
And they're playing like it. So I think that factors in as well. I think this game will be extremely even, and there's no way, I repeat, no way to pick who would win this game.
Yeah. And to circle back one more point too about, the question of did the other teams get snubbed over them? The same argument that I heard for teams like Maryland, as far as they played this team well even in a loss. Duke lost to Notre Dame by 1. Mm-hmm. They lost to number 7 Cornell by 2. They lost to number 7 Syracuse by 1. If that's the argument, then you cannot then turn around and say, well, we should have been in over them. No. Let's keep that. Let's at least be consistent. If that's the argument, I'm cool with it.
Stand on
but
it.
Stand on it.
10 toes.
I'm sorry, but they won 9 games. Yes, they had an easy schedule at the beginning, but they took care of business there. They then played these other good teams tightly. Their worst loss down the stretch was to Virginia, which was a 4-goal loss.
Yep. And
Virginia, we already said, is surging right now. So even that is, they were ranked 16 at the time. They're probably better than 16.
Yeah. At the moment, they're probably playing like a top 12, top 10 team in the country.
Yep.
And they're continuing to play better. And if there are power rankings, Virginia's near the top of those power rankings, if not at the top of them.
Absolutely.
So I really like that. I think Notre Dame and Princeton are set up for cakewalks through this first weekend. So I didn't really want to bring that up at all. I don't think there's a ton with Syracuse Yale to talk about other than Cuse not feeling big-headed and overlooking the matchup and feeling like, Yale isn't near their caliber.
Yeah, that's my only concern with them in this first game is just because it's UNC on the other side. Could it be a situation where it's like, oh, I can't wait to play them again, to get our lick back? But you still got to take care of who's in front of you. And that's why I said the same thing for UNC earlier, because it's like they have to do the same thing. Who's to say both these teams don't get upset and all of a sudden we're getting Yale Albany second round?
Exactly.
Again, I don't think that happens, but it is May. Anything can happen.
Literally anything. We'll get back to the men's D1 here in a second when we spin back for our Riverside games of the week. Looking at men's D2, their bracket out as well. The play-in game will be 8-9. 8 Concordia University Irvine out in California against 9 Flagler. And then the other will be the 7-10. You have Anderson from South Carolina at the 7 against Barton College, the 10. Those games are also later today on Wednesday, 7 p.m. or 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Anderson and Barton at 4, and then CUI and Flagler at 7. The rest of the bracket looks like this. The 1 seed Tampa awaiting the winner of CUI and Flagler. 1 seed Adelphi versus 8 Wilmington from Delaware. 4 Pace versus 5 Seton Hill. Or let me do this the way I did the last one. Sorry. Okay. All of these games are on the 10th, so I'll continue running the way I was. All at 1 p.m. 1 Adelphi versus 8 Wilmington. 1 Tampa versus the winner of CUI and Flagler. 4 Pace versus 5 Seton Hill. 3 Malloy versus 6 Assumption. 3 Florida Tech versus 6 Lenore Rhine. St. Anselm, the 2 against St. Michael's, the 7. And then number 2, Wingate, awaiting number 7, Anderson, and Barton, the winner of that matchup. And then starting at 2 p.m. on the 10th, number 4, Lewis versus number 5, Newberry. Your boys just missed out since they didn't win their conference tournament. Big bummer. It's even harder at the D2 level to get a at-large bid. There aren't many spots available outside of the AQs. So Lees McCray on the outside. This one looking like a possible repeat for Adelphi. Maybe Tampa's able to get in the mix again. Pace can make a little bit of a run. Lenore Ryan is comfortable and used to that championship game. Wingate has come up the last couple of years. But, I mean, the D2 bracket looks very similar to what it's looked like the last couple of years.
Yeah, you want to talk about snub. Man, Lees McCray should have been in there.
Not the boys getting snubbed.
But it's all right. It's all right. We got next year.
All right, the D3 bracket is a mess. It's insanity. But later today, 4 p.m. for our playing games, Riviere and Rhodes. Shout out to our boy D3 Hero. Scranton and SUNY Maritime. Ohio Wesleyan and Grove City, Cortland and Western New England, Mass Maritime and Husson, Pfeiffer and Transylvania, Concordia, Wisconsin, and Ohio Northern, and then Roanoke and Marymount, Virginia. Those are all 4 p.m. later today for playing games. Then on the 9th, awaiting the winner of Scranton and SUNY Maritime is Bowdoin at 12. Awaiting the winner of Riviere and Rhodes is Tufts at 4:30. Stevens and Amherst at 3 p.m. Dickinson and Middlebury at 7:30 p.m. On the 8th, Bates will play the winner of Cortland and Western New England at 4 p.m. Hope will play Ithaca at 7 p.m. On the 9th, Lynchburg will play the winner of Ohio Wesleyan and Grove City. At noon on 3 p.m. on the 9th, York, Pennsylvania will play Colorado College. Also on the 9th, Christopher Newport will play the winner of Pfeiffer and Transylvania at noon. Babson will play the winner of Mass Maritime and Husson. At 3 p.m., Gettysburg and Washington Lee will go to battle along with Hamilton and St. Lawrence. On the 9th, Wesleyan, Connecticut, awaiting the winner of Concordia, Wisconsin, and Ohio Northern at noon. And then at 3 p.m., Salisbury will play the winner of Roanoke and Marymount, Virginia. St. John Fishers battles Williams at 3. And then at 6:30 p.m., RIT versus Elmhurst. I honestly think the D3 tournament will be a lot of fun. I hope everybody has fun. Adrian didn't get in.
How is that possible when there's like a million spots available?
Because we didn't win our conference tournament. It's our fault. I ain't blaming nobody but us. We had a bad year. The MIAA is going up against Ithaca this year with Hope. I want to say best of luck, but at the same time, I hate Hope. So best of luck, but I do hope you lose too. However that works. But yeah, the D3 tournament's always fun because it's guys playing for the love of the game. You don't get a lot of money at D3. You don't get all these crazy experiences and everything. You're balling with your boys. Like that's essentially what it is. And you see the passion, you see the fun, you see the love and the grit, but at the same time, it isn't quite the job that it is at the D2 and D1 levels. So I'm really excited for the D3 tournament, but at the same time, like, I kind of don't care who wins. I just hope that there are a ton of good games. I don't know if you have any opinion on the D3 tournament.
No, not really.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't, because what kind of you have no reason to be tuned in on D3 at all. Looking for this bracket to pull up for the women's. So looking at D1, things get kicked off on the 8th. So that's Friday. 4 p.m. James Madison and Notre Dame. 5 p.m. Clemson and Davidson. 6 p.m. Stanford and 3 p.m. Mercer and Michigan. Stanford and Penn State was 6 p.m. Jacksonville and Colorado also 6 p.m. 9 p.m. Florida and Denver. 1 p.m. Stony Brook and Stonehill. 2 p.m. Princeton and Rutgers. 3 p.m. Navy and Mass. 4 p.m. Boston College and Yale. 3 p.m. Albany and Johns Hopkins. 6 p.m. Army West Point and Fairfield. 7 p.m. Syracuse and Loyola Maryland. Those are our first round games. Getting buys are Northwestern, North Carolina, and Maryland. Games on the 10th for that second round will begin at noon. That'll be North Carolina against the winner of Clemson and Davidson. Maryland against the winner of Rutgers and Princeton. The winners of Army West Point versus Fairfield, Albany versus Johns Hopkins. And then also the winners of Stony Brook versus Stonehill and Boston College versus Yale. Also have a 1 p.m. start of winner of Navy and UMass versus Syracuse and Loyola Maryland. And then Mercer and Michigan winner against the winner of Stanford and Penn State. And then 2 p.m. start, Northwestern against the winner of James Madison and Notre Dame. And then a 3 p.m. start for the winner of Florida and Denver and Jacksonville and Colorado. The main thing for me in this was, Colorado getting an 8th seed after winning the Big 12 tournament. I think that was huge. Michigan being a 7th seed, getting to host the first and second rounds in Ann Arbor as an at-large bid was huge for them in the season that they've had this year. The Big Ten was dominant. I mean, they got Northwestern in, Penn State, Michigan, Rutgers, Maryland, Johns Hopkins. Essentially the whole conference is in. So they had a really good year there. Boston College able to crawl themselves into the women's tournament this year after starting off rough against some ranked opponents. But at the end of the day, this is really kind of shaping up to be a traditional 1-2 matchup against Northwestern and UNC.
Until Denver comes in and knocks them out. But other than that,
hey, I got no qualms to that at all. I'm big for upsets in the tournament. That's where we
Florida had to go play Colorado. Now they got to go play Denver back-to-back weeks.
Hey, ball out.
They can get the smoke back-to-back weeks.
From the same area.
Yo. I can't say much more for after that, but.
No, facts. But with that being said, any other comments on this last week?
No, feels weird that we're already here. I feel like every lacrosse season has flown by recently. NLL season being basically done is wild. PLL being back this week's wild. This already being in the tournament, wild. But not complaining.
No, I'm not complaining at all. And one thing we definitely won't be complaining about is Riverside, as they bring us our Riverside games of the week. We made the switch to Riverside a couple months ago as a company has changed our entire productivity level on its head, from enhanced audio quality and episodes, easy to use editing tools, including a built-in editing bay for all of our shows on the network, and the fastest way to cut clips, segments, and funny moments of all of our shows. Plus, it is an absolute bargain compared to the competitors. Use our link in the description to get your podcast, webinars, or video projects looking and sounding pristine with Riverside. What are your Riverside game of the week? Game or games of the week. I said that really bad.
Firstly, what a Scotty Royster transition. Talking about not complaining into not complaining about Riverside. That was beautiful.
Eyes on.
Man, as far as game of the week, I'm gonna go Georgetown, Virginia. You know, you get a hot Virginia team against a hot Georgetown team. Both kind of had great ends to the season that I think any team should be a little bit afraid to play them. I think that's going to be a good matchup. I could see it going either way. I could also see it being both high and low scoring at the same time, which would be fun. So, I'll take them. And then on the women's side, I got to go Denver, Florida, because who knows how many more times I could pick them.
So, I mean, for me, on the men's side, a couple honorable mentions to start things out. Yale and Syracuse. I think that's going to be a blockbuster game. A lot of excitement, a lot of people kind of looking at Cuse like, hey, this is kind of your time. We've been waiting on you to, bring glory back and restore it into the orange. And this group has the means to do it. Now you have to do it because this group ain't going to be together no more. So that's something that's kind of at the forefront. Albany and North Carolina, which we talked a ton about. And then John Hopkins and Cornell being such an even matchup, I think is great. But I think the one that everybody really has circled is Duke and Richmond. Everybody wants to see if Duke really belongs in the tournament. Everybody wants to see if Richmond is for real. That's what this matchup is going to tell us. Which one of those things is true? That's what everybody's looking forward to. That's what everybody wants to see. And that's the game that I think will cause the most discourse as of now. There's no telling what will actually happen and will actually create the most amount of discourse. But on paper, looking at it now, that game is bound to have lacrosse Twitter in a bind.
If Duke loses, you might as well shut your phone off because it's just going to be a million comments about how they shouldn't have been in.
Facts. I 100% agree.
They'll completely ignore that Richmond has been good all year and that they are a good team, and it's just going to be, see, we told you they shouldn't have been in. Guaranteed.
Yep. Which is disrespectful, in my opinion, to Richmond and Duke, but more so Richmond, because you're not giving Richmond the props they deserve as being a top team in the country the entire season long. Over on the women's side, honorable mention to start Stony Brook and Stonehill. I love what Spalina's done with Stony Brook. I love the fact that they were given a 5 seed this year. I love the fact they get to host games. This is huge for them. I think they're going to take that boost and run with it. I don't think Stonehill is quite on their level. But when you look at the season that Stony Brook has put together and the program that Spalina's built over the last couple of years and the foundation they've laid, it's kind of hard not to want to watch that game and be excited about it. Boston College and Yale, two teams who have really fallen off but managed to crawl their way in. Really excited to see what those two teams have to lay on the floor. Stanford and Penn State, two teams who lived in the top 10 this year but had no choice but to play each other in this first round based off of how seeding fell. Either one of these teams easily could have been a top 8 seed that was hosting, but instead they're not. So I think that really makes things, puts into perspective how good women's lacrosse was this season. But the big one for me is Mercer, Michigan. Michigan had a fantastic season. The energy is going to be live. They're hosting this game. Only, I think, the second time they've been to the tournament ever as a team, and I think the first time they've hosted ever. So this is huge. And as a Michigan fan, it's all I have left clinging in terms of lacrosse after the men's exit in the Big Ten tourney. So I'm pumped, and you should be too. You mentioned a little bit about PLL. What's popping for you this weekend?
Oh, I'll be there. Live on the ground. Hoots on the Ground is back.
Yes,
in
sir.
Utah. 3rd straight year. So
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
hoping. I just everyone hope that the plane gets there on time, and
You
yeah,
safely
let's.
arrive there and back.
Yes,
No
yes,
delays. You have an awesome time there. There's great
yeah.
games.
I got to figure out what to do like Saturday morning and most of Sunday. Um,
Food.
I think I'm gonna try to hit up like some card shops or something.
Mm.
I don't know what else to do because last year we did all like the sightseeing and there's spoiler alert not much to see in downtown Utah, Salt Lake City that is. So
Go to the zoo.
we might have to.
I had a fantastic time at the zoo there.
Did you
Their
in
zoo
Utah?
was great. Yeah,
Okay.
their zoo was great.
Okay.
That
How
was
far
like,
is it?
I think it took us like 30, 45.
All right, that's not bad. That's
I don't
not
think
all right.
it was
Maybe
too far.
I'll suggest it because
Yeah.
we're gonna get in immediately, basically drop our stuff off, probably head to the stadium, and then we got 2 games. I'm excited to see. I said this in the group chat, but a lot of guys that won't be on the roster most likely here in a couple of weeks, but maybe down the line they are. Maybe they end up coming in late in the season as fillers or whatnot. So I'm excited to kind of see them and display their talent, especially with the expansion talks that are potentially going to come here in the next few years. I think it's a good way to kind of showcase some talent. So it should be good. Utah's always fun. It's the PLL experience there is great. There's 2 sides. First off, PLL, if you're listening, please book more venues with 2 sides of stands because it's electric when the home team scores. Don't like that it's always against the Outlaws for some reason when we're there, but other than that, it's an awesome experience. So anyone that can make it to Utah, I would highly recommend doing that for PLL Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a decent time there. The games are good. The zoo
Just
was
don't do
good.
anything else because Deej will say it's bad.
I mean,
Except for their zoo.
But yeah, I think you'll love the zoo. I had a great time there.
All right.
It was an awesome time. But yeah, with that being said, make sure that you catch his selects on all of his socials. Hoots Sports Media. Find him everywhere. He will have tons of selects from what will be a great weekend of
Hey, and
PLL
as
lacrosse.
long as KB is available, there'll be stuff pumping out in game on the OTB Lax Pod Twitter as well.
Live selects and such. So
Yes.
make sure y'all are tuned in to not only his socials, but as you just mentioned, the OTB Lax Pod socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Threads, TikTok, everywhere, OTB Lax Pod. Make sure to subscribe.
Cross-posted
YouTube.
everywhere.
It's everywhere. 360. Gang. Make sure you subscribe to the OTB Lax Pod, youtube.com/OTB Lax Pod. Also, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, etc. It's where you're going to get full video episodes of this podcast. Also, lacrosse exclusives like Wordle, other lacrosse content, interviews with players, coaches, GMs, etc. Don't forget to follow the main pod at Underground Sports Philadelphia, youtube.com/Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you will get Water Dog Wednesdays. Or was it Water Dog Weekly? Let me pull that up. Let me get that right. Water Dogs Weekly. Water Dogs Weekly, which will be recorded on Wednesdays, but then will be visible to you on Thursday episodes of Underground, which you can find on Underground Sports Philadelphia. So it's basically going to be a kickoff with Michael Sowers, kicking it up with KB, talking all things coming up for the opening weekend of PLL. And then after that, it will be a weekly interview with different members of the Philadelphia Water Dogs throughout the season, coming to you every Thursday. Don't forget to follow my nephew across from me, Hoots Sport Media. I already told you once, so I'll tell you twice. Don't forget to follow Uncle Deej, Uncle Deej12 on Instagram. You'll also find me on Twitter, SCS_next. You can find the rest of my socials there. But with that being said, this has been episode 15 of the OTB College Show. Make sure you watch tons of college this week. Tournament's going to be bonkers. We're here for upsets. We're here for chalk. We're here for great games, big hits, crazy goals, and everything else in between. From me and my nephew Hoots, y'all have an amazing week, and we'll see y'all again. Peace.